Hey guys, what's up? It's Alec Torelli from Conscious Poker, and welcome to my YouTube. Today we're going to talk about what to do when facing big bets on the river, like facing polarizing bets in situations when your opponent either has the nuts, like really, really strong hands, or air. This is very common when people raise the river. So if someone's raising you on the river, they're basically saying, look, I'm not scared of you having super strong hands. Your bet on the river represents a strong hand. Their raise on the river represents a hand that could beat that very strong hand. So if anytime someone raises on the river, they're representing super strong hands. And that's one macro framework that's really important to understand. Otherwise, they're bluffing. People very rarely raise the river with marginal hands for value. Like if someone has top pair, they're not going to raise you on the river for value. With few exceptions, they're almost never going to raise you on the river for value. They're going to call your bet because they might beat your bluffs. But when they raise you, they're no longer representing top pair. They're representing a hand that could beat your hand, which maybe you're representing top pair. Maybe you're representing two pair even. So if they're raising you, depending on the situation, the board texture, and your betting patterns, they're representing some form of a very, very strong hand. How strong depends on the nuances of the game. Of course, can't get into all the the possible permutations in a video, but they're representing something very strong. Otherwise, they're bluffing. So it's important to understand that raising ranges, the types of hands people raise with on the river, are either super nutted, like super strong hands, or air, and that's called polar. It means it's on the polar opposite ends of a spectrum. It's either very, very strong or very, very weak. So if you like this video, my name is Alec Torelli, been playing and coaching poker for 17 years, and on this YouTube, my mission is to simplify the game and help others make better decisions through the game of poker. So subscribe to this channel, turn on notifications if you want to take your game to the next level so you don't miss upcoming videos, and visit consciouspoker.com if you want to take your game to the next level with awesome training, free and premium as well. So, okay, this takeaway came, and I've said this in past videos, but playing poker is awesome, and you learn a lot by playing poker, like empirically through just like the experiences you have, and obviously talking poker with, I'm blessed to have very smart, high stakes poker friends that I could talk poker with. But one of the best ways to learn poker that I found is teaching. And I wasn't expecting this when I started coaching. I wanted to connect and help others on their journey, but I wasn't expecting to get a lot better as a player. But forcing myself to simplify this process really helped me understand it better so I could articulate it and explain it to other people. So this takeaway came from a private coaching session I had with one of my clients, and he was trying to understand how to face these situations on the river that we talked about. So the macro framework I gave him, like the first thing that I helped him think about, that helped him a lot, and I hope it really serves you as well. Because your opponent's range is so binary, because it's either super, super strong or absolute total air, the first and a lot of times the only question that you need to ask is my opponent capable of bluffing? Now, why is that so important? Because if your opponent is not capable of bluffing, which many people aren't, a lot of players in certain spots on the river raising all in for their entire stack, especially in a tournament, especially if it's deep in a tournament and you're on the bubble, like if you add all these permutations up, the number of players that are capable of bluffing gets smaller and smaller as you add more pressure variables. So depending on the situation, depending on the player, the game, the stakes, whether they're about to quit, whether they're winning or losing, if it's for a lot of money, if they're taking a shot, if it's a tournament, if it's deep, if it's in the money, right? The more of these things you add, the more of these layers you add, the fewer people that are capable of bluffing. So is my opponent capable of bluffing? If they're not capable of bluffing, then they have a strong hand, and then you just fold. And it sounds so simple, but it's so often overlooked in practice because you're watching this channel, you want to get better at poker. So you're probably better than the average player that you're playing against. And one of the tendencies that I've noticed when working with people that are better than their competition, let's say they're a good player and they're trying to become great. They're already winning. Maybe they're winning, they're playing 2-5, they're winning $50 an hour, they want to win $75 an hour. Something like that. They're winning $25 an hour, they want to win $50 an hour. Fine. So they come to me to want to work with me, and what happens is they're thinking up here. They're thinking on all these levels. They're thinking like, okay, well, I might lose some of you here, you might follow me here, but the idea that they're thinking about things like, okay, what types of hands in my range should I call with? What are my blockers? How does my hand interact with their range? Like, if I fold here, am I going to be exploited? What does the book say? I've ran pile solver simulations, or I've ran, equity calculations. Like, what does the book say that I should do? What is the mathematical, game theory optimal approach? And so they're thinking up here with all these different things. And I could bore you with all these sort of thought levels that people are going through. They're thinking up here, right? But their opponent is thinking down here. Right? And that's not a diss at some of the players, but everyone's at a different level in poker. Like I am suck at chess and some players are great. They're thinking down here, their opponent. And their opponent is just thinking on the level of, I'm waiting for a strong hand. I have the nuts. I'm going all in. That's like the basic framework that a lot of players are at in small, mid-stakes, even some high-stakes games. People are just not capable of pulling a big bluff on the river. Their opponent's thinking down here, and they're thinking up here. And the problem is that poker is not like chess. Poker is not a game where if you think on the highest level, you win. Chess is a game where no matter what I do or what I tell you I'm going to do, all the information is known. So if I tell you, hey, I'm going to, castle and attack your king, you can be like, okay, I don't care because my pieces are moved in a way that's better than yours and you're just drawing dead. You're going to lose, right? So chess, you want to think on the highest level because the player that thinks on the highest level wins all the time, 100%. It's a game of known information. In poker, it's not that way. You think on the highest level, you might not actually win because you might be 2 level higher than your opponent, and then you outthink yourself. So you're thinking like all these things up here, like my minimum defense frequency and my blockers and my combos and game theory, and I'm at the top of my range, I have to call. And the guy that's 1 level above his opponent is just thinking, okay, well, this guy's never bluffing. I'm going to fold unless I have the nuts. So the latter, the guy that's 1 level above his opponent, is actually on the correct thought pattern. He's identified the level his opponent is on, number 1. Identify the level his opponent is on. He's realized by observation and observing his opponent and figuring out how that player bets and hacks and thinks, he's figured out what his opponent is thinking and how his opponent is thinking about the game, which is, how they're thinking about the world, how they're thinking about the poker, the way they bet. He's interpreted his betting patterns and he's realized that his opponent is not capable of raising as a bluff on the river. He just doesn't have that gear. And he said to himself, okay, well, if that is my opponent, anytime this guy raises me on the river, I'm going to fold. The guy that's up here is thinking, well, if I fold every time he raises me, I'm technically exploitable. And from a game theory optimal standpoint, if the guy adjusts his game and starts raising me as a bluff and knows that I'm overfolding, then I'm going to be exploitable, and then he's going to start outplaying me, and then I'm not balanced, and I'm not my minimum defense frequency, and all this other bullshit that really doesn't matter because the guy is just never bluffing. Right? So if you want to be fancy and articulate and smart and you want to score high on a poker test, think on the highest level. That's fine. If you want to win the most amount of money, you identify the level of your opponents and you think 1 level higher. My name is Alec Torelli. I hope you enjoyed this video. Hit me up in the link in the description if you want to work with me, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.